Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that you could join us today for this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast. Tyranny is enveloping the globe, and the United States is a shining jewel the globalists want to bring down, and they will use terrorism as the pretext to get it done. Look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, have blown things up. We're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. This can stop this Hitlerian Reichstag event. I want to put the toll-free number up for Congress. And I won't want you to believe Alex Jones. I want you to go get these news stories off my website. I want you to call these major newspapers. I want you to find out these statements were true by the White House about preparing for martial law. And I want you to let them know that if there is any terrorism, we know who to blame. If any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system. We know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame.
He's on almost everyone's list of the most likely suspects for today's attacks.
The alleged mastermind, America's most wanted terrorist, Osama bin Laden.
He has described the United States as the devil. This is the beast.
Meanwhile, Osama bin Laden is a name that we have been hearing all day long.
They now believe that bin Laden was responsible.
I'm told that Osama bin Laden likely deployed more than 50 terrorists.
They are now, and I'm quoting here, 90% certain.
We are being looted. We are being sacked as if the Visigoths had poured into Rome. Greenspan in the Federal Reserve, who set the monetary policy that is now could cause a major depression, is now saying we could have a crash, a real estate crash, and it's all our fault. It's his fault for printing $5 trillion of fiat currency. I've been saying that the globalists stated in the 70s with the Trilateral Commission public statements that they would create a euro, as they've done. They would then create a union in North America, then larger, that they would destroy the dollar, that they would then have a currency crisis that went on for several years or longer, as long as a decade, between the dollar and the euro and other competing currencies, and then have a global benchmark on a new global cashless society, currency that they could fully control and manipulate.
How's your bank account looking these days, folks? When massive foreign trade deals are made, they are done in U.S. dollars, which serves as the world's reserve currency. Now the UN is backing a plan to change all of that and create a new global currency.
The U.S. economy is running an enormous deficit and is suffering from mass unemployment. The U.S. has pretty much no other option but to continue printing dollars, making the greenback cheaper and making foreign-held debt less valuable. The United Nations says it wants to go back to the idea of special drawing rights, or SDRs, and make it into a proper currency. The International Monetary Fund will then provide liquidity when and where it's needed.
The IMF could act like a world central bank that steers the global money supply.
A report by the United Nations says the American dollar should be ditched as the main global reserve currency.
I think we're going to move to a world which is effectively pegged to SDRs.
And then have a global benchmark on a new global cashless society, currency that they could fully control and manipulate. Get mad! Because if you don't get mad and take action, they're going to go ahead and decide to take us down to zero. I don't want to be a slave. Stand up to them. Don't you want to be free? In analyzing the enemy attack profile, the most probable development
is bioweapon release as a way to, in the fear that ensues, reorganize society around a greater level of control.
We're tracking H1N1 at Fox News and state healthcare workers in New York.
Certain states, including our state, New York State, are actually making it mandatory for healthcare workers to get vaccinated against both seasonal flu and H1N1. It is very, very important.
Because I read what they say they're going to do to us. It isn't hard, and I'm tired of it. It's time for you to find out who our real enemy is.
The white Al-Qaeda. See, first they tell the good old boys, we're going to take all the rights away of the brown people. And the good old boys are like, good, get them brown people, kill them, glass parking lot them. We get all the internal documents. It's all about gun owners, conservatives, returning veterans. Then, after they've got the stuff in place, they flip it and say, it's white people. They're everywhere. Now, that's already in the internal police training manuals. They're now shifting to a new phase. They're going to keep the Muslim demonization going, but it's now a dish that's cooked. They just put it on the back burner to keep it warm. And you know, they've killed bin Laden in their staged event. Now the next phase, they've already been beta testing behind closed doors with the police and military. Now they're moving it to white Al-Qaeda.
The death toll on the island just outside of Oslo, where hundreds of young people were gathered for a political weekend.
About that shooting which happened after the explosion in the government sector of Oslo.
The media in Norway is identifying the suspect as Anders Behring Breivik, and police are saying that he has links to right-wing extremism, he has nationalist sentiments, anti-foreigner, anti-Muslim views. Apparently, Neil, he is a homegrown terrorist, Norwegian style.
Texas Governor Rick Perry has announced that he's running for the Republican nomination for president in 2012. And you're hearing it here first at Infowars.com. Now, as the world media tunes in to this video, they're saying, well, where else do we have this information? Well, you see, officially, Rick Perry hasn't announced that he's running for president. But in the real world, he has. And I want to talk about that right now. Almost 4 years ago, I released a film called Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, where we predicted that Rick Perry would be running for president coming up in 2012.
Now, Jim, my governor, Rick Perry, it's in the front of the Dallas Morning News. The headline reads, Texas Governor Rick Perry to attend Bilderberg. What does it mean to have the governor of Texas in the Dallas Morning News just admitting he's going to Bilderberg Group?
It means he's a potential president. Officially, Bilderberg considers Governor Rick Perry a potential president of the United States.
I declare to you today as a candidate for President of the United States.
Call me crazy. You can call me anything you want. But don't say you weren't warned. And don't say you weren't told. You were given your choice.